It's Friday morning. Good morning. This is the morning of Buzz. We have so much to get to this hour, and then in the 8 o'clock hour, you know him, you love him, Chris Bolkema. He is currently the Grundy County chairman. He's a Republican running for the Senate district, the 53rd Senate district, and I'm excited. I'm excited to chat with him in the 8 o'clock hour, but the 7 o'clock hour is good because we are going to be chatting about the boys who took down the tampon dispenser. This is a hilarious story, and I'm so glad. All I have to say is well done. Well done to the men who did this. A woke high school, they put tampons in the guy's restroom, and a group of dudes destroyed the dispenser within 20 minutes. Within 20 minutes. So there was this new state law that required menstrual products in at least one men's bathroom in schools. And you don't need a high school diploma, folks, to know how incredibly stupid that is and to know how incredibly asinine that is. So within minutes, a group of students just took down that tampon dispenser. So we're going to get to that story in the 7 o'clock hour. So much to look forward to. I'm live, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. Undercover footage exposes how little the White House staff actually thinks of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Uh, this is a James O'Keefe. He's exposing this White House staffer, and this White House staffer he spills the beans. He spills the beans about Joe Biden and about Kamala Harris and how little the White House staff actually thinks of these two people. So we're going to chat about that. Plus, a squad member is attacking Walgreens. She's calling Walgreens racist for them to close stores instead of letting people rob from them. So Walgreens, they've been closing stores left and right because of the theft problems. So they've been moving Walgreens out of areas that have rampant theft going on. And this squad member, she is calling them racist because they have packed up and they said, nope, we're not going to get stolen from. We're not going to let people rob us. We're going to pack up their store and we're going to move somewhere safe. And that's what Walgreens has been doing. The squad member is upset about that. So we are also going to talk about this hour a blue state. They have now called for a ban of hostile architecture. Okay, so hostile architecture that prevents homeless encampments. Wait a second. Hostile architecture? What does that even mean? This blue state wants to ban things like armrests on benches because that prohibits homeless people from laying down on the bench. So they are calling for a ban on this so-called hostile architecture. So we're gonna get into the story. As always, live YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. Before we get into today's show, we want to show you some love here at Cities 92.9. We've got a big heart and love is in the air. And we want to make your Valentine's Day extra special. Enjoy a room from the Bloomington Normal Marriott, along with some dinner at Jesse's Grill. Jesse's Grill, it's inside the Marriott there, and you get a couple dozen roses from Forget Me Not Flowers. You get this beautiful pendant from Bremer Jewelry. You're like, okay, Kat, tell me how I can get this Valentine's Day package, this prize pack. Well, text the word love, LOVE, to 77,000. It's a little different from our normal text line. 77,000. You can text the word love there and we can be your Cupid. We're going to be your Cupid. Win this Valentine's Day with Cities 92.9. You can use the hotel room anytime through the month of February. Anytime through the month of February. So grab your prize pack today. Text the word love to 77,000. Okay. It never ceases to amaze me how much Washington, D.C. staffers don't know that the city has ears and eyes everywhere. Washington, D.C., you've got ears and eyes everywhere. You got journalists just crawling around. Yet they still insist on bad mouthing these very powerful employees in social settings. Okay. They insist on bad mouthing their superiors, the Washington, D.C. staffers. It's because they lack respect, by the way. This is the president of the United States and the vice president. Okay. And I get it. I totally get it because I don't respect them. They have destroyed any kind of respect I have for the office. I respect the office. I don't respect President Joe Biden. I don't respect Vice President Kamala Harris at all. And I totally get the bad mouthing, but you have to remember these people work for the President of the United States. So this dingus, he's a top White House cybersecurity official, and his name is Charlie Krager. You know you know how the polls, they say that we Americans, we think very little of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. We don't like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Every poll says so. It appears that the White House and the staffers inside the White House, they don't like them much either. Okay. So the White House staffers, they don't like Joe Biden. They don't like Kamala Harris, including Charlie Krager. He doesn't like him. And, Charlie Krager, he was trying to impress his date. Now that date we will come later. I will tell you who that date is. It's, James O'Keefe, but more on that in a bit. He's trying to impress his date, and he talks about how much he and White House staff does not like Joe Biden, and they do not like Joe Biden, and they do not like Kamala Harris. The people who work for Biden, much like all of us with functioning eyes, they have begun to notice that the president is obviously in some sort of mental decline. Okay, so it's not just us anymore. The White House staff sees it as well. Anybody with functioning eyes can say, yeah, that guy's in mental decline. And but but no one in modern history has ever said, like, "We're not going to renominate the president for a second term." That's according to this fellow, Charlie Krager, who was exposed on tape by James O'Keefe. He said that, "Yeah, we notice it. We totally notice the mental decline, but we're going to renominate him because that's never happened before where we don't renominate the Democrats don't renominate a president for a second term." The White House staff, they also hate Kamala Harris, though a certain group of people hate her more than others. Black people, black staff, she hemorrhages black staff. That's according to this guy. He's the cybersecurity White House official, and she hemorrhages black staff, according to this White House official, and she can't keep black staff. They quit on her in mass. So they leave in droves. Michelle Obama, a lot of people have been asking me, you think Michelle Obama is going to be a potential replacement? Well, not according to an alleged meeting with the former first lady. Apparently, this happened, and they asked, "Hey, would you be willing to step up?" And she said, "No, no way. I've seen what has happened to my husband and what he's had to go through, and it doesn't interest me." So I gotta play the clip. I'm gonna play the clip of James O'Keefe meeting with this guy, Charlie Krager, and Charlie Krager is the White House cyber official. He's the top White House cyber official, and he tells James O'Keefe all this. They can't say publicly that the White House wants to replace Kamala Harris and that they know Joe Biden is in mental decline. He says that he knows, and White House officials know that that he's slowing down, but they cannot come out and say that, and they have to renominate him because for all of history, we've never not renominated a president for second term. So let's take a listen to the meeting. Here we go.
I work for the White House. So you're pretty high up in the government. Yeah, I'm fairly high up. I'm good at keeping secrets, and so I manage two federal agencies, the State Department and USAID. So when you say it's like security, like you're protecting the networks of the federal agencies that you give all your information to. The mission is to protect yes. information. And we are like the president's voice when we go into meetings in terms of discussing and promoting the president's priorities. Is he going to be the nominee? Yes. And she will be the vice president nominee. Yeah, I don't. There was a debate about removing her from the ticket, but Sadly, they did. She can't keep black staff. They quit on her in mass. But with him, I know. He's got dementia. Yeah, well, he's definitely slowing down. But they know that he has those issues. I think so. But they're not willing to say it. Shows it. And they're not willing to say it publicly. And same thing with Kamala Harris. She's not popular, but you can't remove the first black lady to be vice president from the goddamn presidential ticket. Like, what kind of message are you going to send to, like, all the African American voters?
All right, so I'm not going to play the whole thing. You guys can see it on Twitter, obviously, but here's my favorite part about all of this. Okay, it's not so much that he exposes that they don't like Kamala Harris, and the only reason why they're keeping her is because she's an African, or well, he says a multicultural woman, and that's the only reason why they're keeping her, because it would look bad to African voters or African American voters if they pulled her from the ticket. And he says that she hemorrhages black staff. She can't keep black staff. They quit on her. And then he also says that, yes, he's slowing down Joe Biden. They know that. The polling shows that. We can't go publicly that we know this. We know this about Joe Biden. We know this about the first lady. We can't go publicly, come out publicly and say this and tell the American people what we know. Because one, Joe Biden, we have to renominate him as the president, because that's never happened in history, in modern history, where you don't renominate the president for a second term. And then with Kamala Harris, it's, because she's a multicultural woman, what would that say to African American voters? You can't pull a multicultural woman off of the ticket, the first black vice president of the United States. So incredible. This was an incredible and my favorite thing about all of it, it's not so much all of that stuff. It's James O'Keefe in disguise. Okay. My favorite part is what makes this the best video of all time, really. And it's that Charlie Krager's date that he was blabbing to is actually James O'Keefe in disguise. Depending on if you count count blonde hair and glasses as a disguise. Okay, so he dyed his hair blonde and he put on some Clark Kent like glasses. This is a cybersecurity expert blabbing to a date, which would be bad enough, but the date is but blabbing to the date and not knowing who that date is and not knowing that this date is James O'Keefe. Your job is to secure the internet on behalf of the White House, and you're not aware of who you are on a date with, the guy who invented the genre of getting people to expose their employers while on dates. Like, what? And he shares this footage on the internet. James O'Keefe is a very distinctive face. I mean, he's out there. O'Keefe didn't even send one of his associates to get this guy to blab about his employer. O'Keefe didn't send one of his associates. He Clark Kented it. And the guy in charge of cybersecurity at the White House let it slip that people who work there don't want to work for Kamala, and they think that Joe Biden is losing his marbles. But what can you do? That's what he just let slip. If you live in the DC area, the cybersecurity and cybersecurity is your passion, I bet there's going to be a job opening for you in the White House. Okay. This guy, after this, he doesn't have a job. He scrubbed his social media. And yeah, Charlie Krager, he just exposed the fact that at the White House staff, they don't like Kamala. They don't want to work for Kamala Harris. They think Joe Biden is losing his marbles. But what can you do? All right, I'm going to be back here in just a little bit. You're listening to The Morning Buzz. It's Friday morning. I'm back in just about 5 minutes. Find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. You're watching The Morning Buzz, and if you're watching, hit the like button right now. Hit the like button and comment. I'm curious what y'all think about the White House staffer who spilled the beans about Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. We talked about how Charlie Krager, he was on some sort of date with James O'Keefe, and he revealed that a lot of the White House staff, they don't like President Joe Biden, or they don't like Kamala Harris for sure. And one group of people don't like her more than a different group of people. I'm talking about black staff. She hemorrhages black staff. They don't like her, and but they have to keep her on the VP ticket. Okay, they have to keep her as VP. They got to keep her on the ticket because she's the first multicultural woman uh, to be vice president. And what kind of message would that send to African American voters? We have to keep her on the ticket. And then Joe Biden, they all think that he's losing his marbles, but they can't come out and say that publicly because never in modern history has there been a time where the Democrats don't renominate the president for a second term, and that's why he's remaining on the ticket. And Michelle Obama, there was this alleged meeting where she said that she didn't want to be the president because she saw the toll it took on her husband and what her husband had to go through. So maybe according to this alleged meeting that Michelle Obama was in, and where she was approached about the presidency, she said, "No, I didn't want the job," or "No, I don't want the job." So yeah, lots of things to come out of that meeting. Very interesting. And this was a top White House official working cybersecurity, and this guy didn't even know he was on a date with James O'Keefe. Incredible. This is the guy. This is the guy they got. Needless to say, there is a job opening if cybersecurity is your passion and you live in the DC area. Cybersecurity, this job position is probably available now. I'm live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. Let me know what your thoughts are about that story. Charlie Krager on a date with James O'Keefe. He's blabbing to James O'Keefe, and James O'Keefe isn't even in a great disguise, folks. He's like wearing glasses. He Clark Kenned it. He wore glasses and he dyed his hair a little blonde. Like, this is a cybersecurity expert blabbing to a date, which would be bad enough. But the fact that he's blabbing to a date, not knowing who that date is, and that date is James O'Keefe, and this is the guy who invented the genre of getting people to expose their employers while on dates, and then he shares the footage on the internet. James O'Keefe, he didn't send any of his associates, he went in person, he Clark Kenned it, and this guy Charlie was in charge. I'm sure he no longer has a position with the White House, but he was in charge of cybersecurity at the White House, and he let it slip that people who work there, they don't want to work for Kamala Harris because she's miserable. And they think that Joe Biden is actually losing his marbles, but they can't come out and say these things because what can you do? I mean, they can't come out and say that Joe Biden is losing his marbles because never in modern history has there not been a time where the Democrat Party doesn't renominate the president for a second term. And then Kamala Harris, she's the first multicultural woman to be vice president. What kind of message would you send to African American voters if you pulled her from the ticket? We hate them. We hate both of them as White House staffers. We don't like them, but what can you do? This is what he just blabs to James O'Keefe. It's incredible. And look, like I said, if you live in the DC area and your passion is cybersecurity, I'm willing to bet that there is a job opening at the White House because this guy is since James O'Keefe exposed all this, he scrubbed his social media. He's nowhere to be found. So it's likely that this guy no longer has a job as the top White House official in cybersecurity. Okay, I do need to chat about this guy or this squad member. So her name is Ayanna Presley, Representative Presley. She's the one that's really bald. She has a shiny head, and she said that Walgreens is racist because they're leaving crime-ridden neighborhoods. They're not sticking around in these neighborhoods. And yes, it's safe to assume that this has nothing to do with the demographics of the area and everything to do with the unprecedented levels of threat of theft. Okay, so Walgreens, they're not leaving because these areas are predominantly black. They're leaving because they're tired of being robbed. Okay, but of course, she can't. This Presley woman, this squad member, she's the one with the bald head, very, very shiny. She can't let those facts get in the way that theft is up, and it has nothing to do with the area's demographics, but everything to do with the fact that hey, theft is up, and we can't make money if people keep robbing from us. So Walgreens has been shutting down their stores, and she can't let the facts get in the way of her demands for attention that she so desperately craves. This Presley woman, she just wants attention. That's why she is out there calling Walgreens racist. We're going to get to that story here in just a little bit. Did you know? I think today is Groundhog's Day. Yes, February 2nd. It's Groundhog's Day. I'm looking for the groundhog. Organizers of the Groundhog Day festivities in Pennsylvania. So this is a festival that goes on in Pennsylvania. They expect to see another huge crowd this morning, as they've seen each year since 1993, since the release of the movie Groundhog Day. So, have you seen that movie? I love that movie. It's a great movie. Thousands of people will brave the cold temperatures today in Pennsylvania to watch Phil come out of his of his burrow in Gobbler's Knob to predict either an early spring if he doesn't see his shadow, or 6 more weeks of winter if he sees his shadow. So if he sees his shadow, that's a bad thing. If he doesn't see his shadow, that means we get early spring, which is exciting. So, wonder where the groundhog tradition started. So, apparently, it goes back to Christianity. Okay, so it's a Christian holiday called Candlemas Day. On this day, clergy members would give candles to help people through the remaining winter days. If that day happened to be clear and sunny, uh, it meant winter might drag on. Now, if that day or if the weather was cloudy, spring was on its way. That's what it was. It's called Candlemas. And Christians, or the clergy members, they'd give out candles to help people throughout the remaining days of winter, the remaining winter days. When Germans settled in Pennsylvania, the Candlemas Day folklore expanded to include finding a hedgehog to see how he reacted on this day in regards to the weather. So that's kinda, where the tradition kinda started. The Christians, it's a Christian holiday. It's called Candlemas, where they go and they give candles to help people. So pretty interesting, pretty interesting. Uh, that is, that I like Groundhog Day. I hope that he doesn't, or that he doesn't see his shadow. Yes, he doesn't see his shadow, that's it, because I want more spring. I want an early spring. I'm more about that warm weather, and it feels like it's gonna be really, really it's gonna be warm, today, it's gonna be warm tomorrow in the 50s. I just can't believe it. I'm so pumped for, uh, at least the next couple of days. We'll see if we have 6 more weeks of winter ahead of us. You're listening to The Morning Buzz on Cities 92.9. Find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. Good morning. Hey, this is the Morning Buzz. Thanks so much for tuning in each and every morning, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Central Time. It's Friday, 6:39. And in the 8 o'clock hour, we're going to be visiting with Chris Bolkema. He is currently the Grundy County Chairman, and he's running in the Senate District 53. So the 53rd district there. It's a crowded race, folks. It's a very crowded race, but we're going to be chatting with him in the 8 o'clock hour. Before we took the break, I was telling you a little bit about squad member. She's got a very shiny, bald head. Uh, her name is Ayanna Presley. She's the Democrat. She's not like a very well known squad member, so I have to describe her very bald, very shiny head. And so she's saying that Walgreens is racist because of Walgreens leaving these crime ridden neighborhoods. And Walgreens has thrown their hands up in the air and they've said, enough, we're leaving. And yes, it is safe to assume that this has nothing to do with demographics in that area and and nearly everything to do with the unprecedented levels of theft. There have been unprecedented levels of threat. But of course, Presley, she can't let those facts get in the way of her demands for attention. She's seeking attention that she so desperately craves, and that's why she's calling Walgreens racist. Rumble, and you can always watch the clips live on the stream. But here we go. Let's take a listen to squad member Presley. Here we go.
Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, Walgreens is planning to close yet another pharmacy in the Massachusetts 7th, this time on Warren Street in Roxbury, a community that is 85% Black and Latino. This closure is a part of a larger trend of abandoning low-income communities like the previous closures in Mattapan and Hyde Park, both in the Massachusetts 7th. When a Walgreens leaves a neighborhood, they disrupt the entire community and they take with them baby formula, diapers, asthma inhalers, life-saving medications, and of course, jobs. These closures are not arbitrary and they are not innocent. They are life-threatening acts of racial and economic discrimination. That is why I joined with Senator Markey and Warren to demand answers from Walgreens CEO. Why was there no community input, no adequate notice to customers, and no transition resources to prevent gaps in healthcare? Shame on you, Walgreens. Having a website with talking points about health equity and underserved communities is not enough. Walgreens is a multi-billion-dollar corporation that needs to put their money where their mouth is and stop divesting from Black and brown communities.
Squad member Presley. She's out there and she's crazy. She's seeking and she's demanding the attention. She wants attention. She desperately craves attention. Here we go. I've got the story. Shore News Network. Representative Presley has publicly accused the pharmacy giant Walgreens of racial discrimination following its decision to close stores in neighborhoods grappling with high rates of theft. Presley's statements criticized the company's actions, suggesting that the closures disproportionately affect communities of color. Now, Walgreens, a major player in the pharmacy industry, we know this, recently announced the closure of several stores due to the company and describing this as rampant theft. They're closing the stores because of rampant theft. This decision, according to Presley, targets areas with significant minority populations, leading to her accusation of racial bias. This has nothing to do with demographics and everything to do with the unprecedented rate of crime happening. So the thing is, Walgreens is not targeting anyone or any community. It's the other way around. Walgreens is the one being targeted. The company has no obligation to anyone to keep any kind of store open, especially when elected officials show an extreme lack of respect of their business. They don't respect their business. If they respected the business, they'd pull back their progressive policies that create this rampant crime. So in her statement, Presley highlighted the impact of such closures on these communities, emphasizing the reduced access to essential services, including medications and healthcare products. She called Walgreens to reconsider its decision and to address the issue of theft in a manner that does not disadvantaged communities of color. The lack of self-awareness here is so infuriating. Walgreens was doing well before the progressives across the country decided to make crime legal. They make crime legal with things like the Safety Act. Okay, you live in Illinois, you get. I mean, we had a representative out there trying to say that cops should stop pulling people over for speeding or stop pulling people over for traffic violations, improper lane usage, tinted windows, no license plate. You got to stop pulling people over for that kind of thing. What? You're making crime legal. So, subsequently, too many people have taken advantage of the five-finger discount. That's just grabbing and going. That's the five-finger discount. A lot of people are taking advantage of these progressive policies and they're using their five-finger discount. Quite frankly, the fact that these elected officials lack so much common sense that they cannot make the connection that their policies fuel this environment. It's an environment of rampant theft. This is insulting to anybody with a brain. You can't make this connection. You know your progressive policies fuel rampant theft. It's not Walgreens' job to create access to essential services, by the way. Having Walgreens in your neighborhood is a privilege, it's not a right. And the thing about rights versus privileges is that privileges can be taken away. And this is what happens when you abuse your privileges, they get taken away. If Presley opened up a dictionary and looked up the word racism, she would not find the words Walgreens, drugstore, or pharmacy in that description. So I think the moral of the story here is she needs to order a dictionary on Amazon because clearly she can't get one at Walgreens anymore. And she needs to look up the term racism. And look, Presley has no one to blame but her asinine ideology and her asinine ideology, which fuels, by the way, crime-ridden communities. All right, I do have to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about the progressives in Washington and how they've decided that local officials have no right to come up with efficient ways and creative ways, really, to try to prevent these homeless encampments. What are they doing? Well, local officials, they've tried to stop the homeless encampments with a creative thing called architecture. Okay. Now, this blue state is calling for a ban on what they call hostile architecture. Now, this is just putting armrests on park benches so that way homeless people will not sleep on the park benches. Okay. So, any kind of architecture that prevents homeless encampments is to be banned in this blue state. We're going to talk about it here next on the Morning Buzz. Stay tuned and find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. Woo! Hey, good morning. This is the Morning Buzz, and I'm Kat Peterson, your radio host. Thanks so much for tuning in each and every morning. You can go ahead, smash that like button while you're there on the stream, the live stream, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. We're back, and I was telling you a little bit about squad member Presley. She was calling Walgreens racist. Yes, if you're having a hard time picturing who squad member Presley is, she's very, very bald, and she has a very shiny head. And she said Walgreens is racist because they've been leaving these crime-ridden neighborhoods. And yes, I would say it's safe to assume that Walgreens, this has nothing to do with the demographics of that area, but rather and it has everything to do with the unprecedented levels of theft. But of course, Presley, she can't let the facts get in the way. She doesn't want the facts to get in the way of her demands for attention that she so desperately craves. She wants attention. That's why she's doing this. Now, before I took the break, I was telling you all a little bit about a new bill that's going to ban hostile architecture. Hostile architecture. What is that, Kat? Well, we're going to get to that here in just a second, but they want to make it illegal to set up boulders, structures, or other elements that are used to prevent homeless encampments. Now, this is happening in Washington. And the progressives there, they've decided that these Washington local officials have no right to come up with these creative ways to try to prevent homeless encampments. So, according to a local news outlet there, they say a new bill would make it illegal for a city to set up boulder structures or design elements for the purpose of stopping homeless people from camping in a public space. Senate Bill 6231 calls the obstacles hostile architecture. Hostile architecture means any building or structure that's designed or intended to prevent people from experiencing homelessness, from sitting or lying on buildings or structure at street level. This is what the bill says. I just can't believe this is going on here in the United States. The bill wouldn't prevent the state from using methods to prevent camping along highways. So they are going to they're going to try to push this bill to ban hostile architecture. This is an example of what these clowns are talking about. I want to share this with you on the live stream. I'm going to share it. These are rocks that they've put up there. And I want to share this picture with you. You can kind of see it on the live stream. It's just a bunch of rocks outside of this Hobby Lobby. There have been homeless encampments there, and they've been putting some boulders there to try to prevent people from creating homeless encampments. Okay. Now, there's another example I've got. This is a park bench. And what they've done with the park bench, they have put like armrests on the park bench to try to prevent people from lying down on the park bench. So there you have it. There's the park bench, and there's some armrests there, and it would prevent somebody from lying flat on their back on the park bench because there's armrests in the middle of the bench. Okay, so that's what we're talking about when it comes to hostile infrastructure. This bench, they designed it to keep people from sleeping on the benches. When state officials are actively trying their hardest to enable and worsen the homeless crisis, cities have to come up with creative ways to try to offset this problem. Okay, so local officials, they've put boulders in areas or rocks in areas where, hey, let's make it hard for them to set up camp. Let's make it hard for homeless guys to sleep on park benches. Let's come up with these creative ways to try to offset this crisis. But solving the problem is a problem for progressives, okay? Because you can't have progressive problems, which homelessness is a progressive problem, without progressive solutions. They want their solution. Although I guess it would be I guess it is a good idea to put ugly rocks along the freeway to prevent homeless encampments. All cities have to do is enforce anti-camping ordinances. Okay, that's all they have to do. I get the creative solutions. However, there's a much easier solution. You just enforce your anti-camping ordinances, okay? And then you prosecute drug and property related crimes. If they're vandalizing property, you prosecute those crimes. You arrest them. If they're doing open drug deals, you arrest them, you prosecute them. I mean, this isn't rocket science, okay? We don't need all of these creative ways to stop the homeless encampments. We just enforce the laws that are on the books. There's anti-camping ordinances that you can enforce. But progressives don't like the facts, and they pretend that prosecuting anyone that's homeless is more of a crime than the crime itself. But the biggest problem with all of it, that is that the problem has nothing to do with a lack of housing. Progressives will say it's due to a lack of housing, and that's just not true. State officials are acting as if adding the term hostile in front of architecture would somehow make these things evil. It's not, okay? Most people with a brain, words don't scare the rest of us like they do the people on the left, okay? Hostile architecture, just because something is hostile, that does not subsequently make it a bad thing. As a society, we should be hostile to a lot of things, and homeless encampments are one of those things that deserve hostility. We should be hostile towards homeless encampments. They're dangerous, not only to the homeless people, but to the rest of society. So I'm going to be back in just a little bit. You're listening to the Morning Buzz. A woke high school, they put a tampon dispenser up, and some dudes at the high school, they destroyed that dispenser within 20 minutes. I'm excited to chat about it here next on the Buzz. Woohoo! Hey, sorry about that. Had to go grab my cup of coffee. I appreciate you tuning in. Hey, go ahead, smash that like button. We're going to come back. We're going to chat a little bit about the tampon dispenser in the high school bathroom. It was a law mandated by the state that you have to have at least one tampon dispenser in a men's bathroom. And the kids, they didn't like it. You know, you don't need a high school diploma to know that this stuff is garbage. That's next to the buzz. Good morning. Hey, this is the Morning Buzz. I so do appreciate you tuning in each and every morning. And Awoke High School, they are putting tampons in the boys' bathroom, in the guys' restroom, and a group of dudes said, you know what? No, we're going to destroy this tampon dispenser. And all I've got to say is, good, well done. Well done. They destroyed this dispenser within 20 minutes of it being installed. So I'm excited to chat about that. Now, here it is, the dumbest thing said by a crime-ridden progressive city official. We can't prosecute or arrest our way out of this. This is what a progressive city official said. I'm going to get to this clip. It's the dumbest thing that a progressive city official has ever said. We can't prosecute or arrest our way out of this. Uh, Quite literally, that's the solution. You have to prosecute and arrest your way out of this. So, this morning in the 6 o'clock hour, what have we been chatting about? A lot. We talked about the undercover footage that exposed how little the White House staff actually thinks of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Thank you, James O'Keefe. This footage is incredible. Then we talked about the squad member Presley. She sat there and she called Walgreens racist because Walgreens has been leaving these areas where there's rampant crime, and she's accusing she's accusing Walgreens of being racist because they're closing these stores. Look, folks, Walgreens is they're closing the stores because they're sick and tired of people robbing from them. And then we did talk about the blue state and how there were some hostile architecture pieces. That's what the progressives call it. They say it's hostile architecture. It's a blue state calling for a ban on those things. So, you know, park benches, if you put armrests in the middle of the park benches, that prevents people from lying down on them, homeless encampments. And there's been some creative ways people have been trying to stop the homeless issue or the homeless crisis, and they've been putting rocks in different places to try to stop people from sleeping on the ground. And the progressives, they're upset by this. They're trying to pass this bill. It's Senate Bill 6231, and they call these obstacles like the armrests in the middle of the park bench hostile infrastructure. And the bill would prevent local officials from using these creative ways to stop camping um, in the city. Can't stop camping in their cities. So we talked about that, and that's everything we talked about in the 6 o'clock hour. In the 8 o'clock hour, we will be chatting with Chris Bolkema. Chris Bolkema is running for the Senate District 53, and he's currently the Grundy County chairman, the board chairman there. And I just love having him on. So we're going to have him on today in the 8 o'clock hour. So let's get to it. There's only one logical thing to do when you find a tampon dispenser in a boy's restroom. And some guys at this school, this high school in Connecticut, they knew exactly what this logical thing was to do. A new state law required menstrual products in at least one men's bathroom. So this was a Connecticut state law. And you don't need a high school diploma, folks, to know how incredibly asinine that is. Why would you need tampons in a men's bathroom? So within minutes, we had a group of guys, and they did what needed to be done. They took down that dispenser. So according to the New York Post, a state mandated tampon dispenser inside a boy's bathroom at a Connecticut high school was ripped down 20 minutes after it was installed this month, according to the building's disgusted principal. So he was disgusted at the boys who did this. The dispenser was placed in the Brookfield High School boys' bathroom at about 9:30 a.m. last Wednesday. But by 9:52 a.m., so about 20 minutes later, that thing was torn down from the wall, leaving tampons littering the floor. And the school's principal said in an email to students and staff, quote, the fixture was put in the bathroom as part of a new state law that mandates each school must provide free menstrual products in women's bathrooms, all gender restrooms, and at least a single men's bathroom. So then he goes on, I'm aware that the law says men's bathroom, but the actions today that led to vandalism and destruction of property were the work of immature boys, not men. All I have to say, they are men, and well done. Well done. Does anyone see what the problem is here? And what on earth took so long to get that dispenser down? I mean, that dispenser should have never went up. I mean, wow, 20 minutes. It took a long time to pull down that dispenser. But look, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. And I'm using this quote directed towards the state and local officials there that allowed this dispenser to go up into the men's restroom in the first place, not the guys who did what needed to be done. They needed to tear down that dispenser. And typically, I would not condone such an act. But whoever is responsible for this act needs to be awarded a medal for his courage, for this courage, this courageous act of civil disobedience. So, a Ridgefield resident, this is Ridgefield, Connecticut, Ridgefield resident, and he's the Ridgefield, Connecticut Pride Advisory Board. He sits on that board. So he's a leftist hack. His name is Alex Harris. He says this quote: "Schools are in charge with imparting knowledge and understanding of reality to our youth. Menstruation and trans or non-binary people are simple facts of reality that threaten no one. For goodness sakes, reality? The reality is that these adults are delusional. Okay, these adults are delusional. It's infuriating that these people have the nerve to say that these boys need to accept the simple facts of reality. You honestly cannot make this level of of delusion up. These adults are delusional. They aren't living in reality. The crazy thing about all of this is that these high school boys have more sense than administration or school educators. Okay, they know that men cannot be women. It's just it's delusional. And that said, it sometimes it feels like there's no hope left in the world. I get that. But this act has proven to me, at least, that there's a whole lot of hope coming out of this next generation, and I'm excited. Kids like this, they need to have a bunch of kids, and they need to repopulate the world. The kids who took down this tampon dispenser, they need to repopulate the world, and we need to really outbreed these people. So I have a lot of faith and a lot of hope in this next generation, my generation and the high school generation. They know that this is silly. They know the reality. They know that there are two genders and that men do not bleed. Okay, they just don't. They don't need tampons. So I do want to get to this story here on the Morning Buzz. Find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel. It's Friday. Really quick, I do want to tell you about something before we get into the next story here about this progressive city official and the dumbest thing I've ever heard any politician say in my life. So love is in the air. And Cities 92.9, we've got a big heart and we want to make your Valentine's Day extra special. Enjoy a room from the Bloomington Normal Marriott with dinner at Jesse's Grill. Now, Jesse's Grill is right inside the hotel there. You get a couple of dozen roses from Forget Me Not Flowers and a stunning pendant from Bremer Jewelry. Just text the word love to 77,000 for your chance to win. I want to be your Cupid. We want to be your Cupid here at Cities 92.9. And we want you to win the Valentine's Day prize package with Cities 92.9. Text the word love, LOVE, to 77,000. And the hotel room, you can use it once anytime through the month of February. So if you've got something already planned, if you're a good hubby, hubby, and you've already got something planned for Valentine's Day, you can use this any time through the month of February, this hotel stay. So uh, be sure to text the word love to 77,000. Okay. So our nation's capital, we know, is currently suffering a major crime wave, and it's very, very, very bad. Compared to this time last year, homicides are up 37%. I'm talking about Washington, D.C., okay, the capital. Auto thefts are up 106%. Then we've got robberies are up 66%. Carjackings are up 108%. Very, very bad compared to this time last year. Everything is up a whopping percentages there. On top of all of that mess, just this week, needs to be noted that a Trump official was shot during a carjacking that killed the second victim. So the Trump official did not die, but it killed the second victim. And the city saw 60 car break ins in 72 hours. 60 car break ins in just 72 hours. That's what the city experienced. So what's going on? What is the nation's capital going to do about this? Well, you definitely can't prosecute people for this. What? You can't arrest people for crimes. Oh no. That's the last thing that will help solve this, according to the attorney general there in Washington, D.C. Don't believe me? Just take a listen to what he says himself in this clip. Here we go.
Voicing their frustrations.
I blame the system.
Many questioning why kids aren't being held accountable.
We as a city and a community need to be much more focused on prevention and surrounding young people and their families with resources if we want to be safer in the long run. We cannot prosecute and arrest our way out of it.
During the discussion, residents did not hold back, voicing their frustrations.
I blame the system.
Many questioning why kids aren't being held accountable.
We as a city and a community need to be much more focused on prevention and surrounding young people and their families with resources if we want to be safer in the long run. We cannot prosecute and arrest our way out of it.
Okay, so according to the Daily Mail, here's what's going on. This is during a recent panel. The Attorney General for Washington, D.C. told residents concerned by the skyrocketing crime that his department could not prosecute and arrest our way out of the problem. AG, Attorney General Brian Schwab was specifically talking about the epidemic of violent crime, including enormous numbers of carjackings, as I told you, 60 in 72 hours. That's currently plaguing. I mean, we've got carjackings plaguing the nation's capital, and the AG's shocking statement came in wake of the violent crime spree by a carjacker on Monday evening that left one resident dead and another, a former Trump administration official, in critical condition. We cannot prosecute and arrest our way out of it. That's what this AG said. The thing is, you can prosecute and arrest your way out of it. That's literally how people have prevented crime since the beginning of time. And according to progressives, the only solution is to give criminals this little warm glass of milk. Sit down. Here's a warm glass of milk. Here's a blankie. Here's a hug. That's the solution progressives want. That's the best these people can come up with. Let's give you a warm glass of milk, honey. Let's give you a blanket. I'm going to give you a hug. It should be illegal for DAs to be this incompetent. When you're this bad at your job, there are two options. Only two options serve true. You're either dumb, and you're so dumb you couldn't pour water out of a boot, even if the instructions were written on the heel of the boot, okay? Or two, you're pure evil. Both things can be true at the same time. So, I do have to take a break. When we come back, I'm going to dive more into detail about that carjacking that happened with the Trump administration official and the one victim who died. It's a tragic story. So we're going to chat about that. We're also going to have Chris Bolkema or he's going to be on the stream, and we're going to chat with him about his race in the 53rd Senate District. You're listening to the Morning Buzz on Cities 92.9. Go ahead, find me on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble, and smash the like button while you're there. Good morning. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in each and every morning. Go ahead and smash that like button, share this out with your friends. And um, I'm going to be back. We're going to chat about the Trump official who was shot. He was in critical condition, and then another person died in Washington, D.C. It was a carjacking. We were talking about the carjackings and how there were 60 of them in Washington, D.C. in just 72 hours, which is insanity. And then the AG, the Attorney General there, Brian Schwab, he says that you can't arrest or prosecute your way out of this. What are you talking about? What, you wanna give the criminals a glass of milk and a kiss on the forehead? Like, what? I just don't get it. We're gonna be back. I've got some good news for you, as well. So I like doing that on Fridays. A sanitation crew finds a woman's a diamond ring. So this is a story out of Greenville, South Carolina. Love Greenville. I was just there for Christmas, and she was heartbroken because she accidentally lost her diamond wedding band at a local recycling center. So we're going to chat about that here on the Morning Buzz, Cities 92.9. Smash the like button, and have you got your cup of coffee? Because we are buzzed up this morning. February is Black History Month, but I don't recognize Black History Month. I think that we should just appreciate history. And, there's this meme going around that Taylor Swift is the face of White History Month. So, have you seen that meme? It's pretty funny. We're back. A tragic story. I'm going to tell you more about it here. And look, folks, I get fired up about these things. Somebody texted in, they were like, Kat, you're fired up. Yes, because according to progressives, the only solution to this crime, this rampant crime that's going on in Washington, D.C., is to give these criminals a warm glass of milk, a kiss on the forehead, a hug, and a blanket, and that's the best these people can come up with. And this DA, this Attorney General, Brian Schwab, he says we can't prosecute or arrest our way out of it. The thing is, you actually can prosecute and arrest your way out of this because that's literally how people have prevented crime since the beginning of time. And it should be illegal for DAs, for attorneys, to be this incompetent. When you're this bad at your job, there's only two options serve to be true. You're either so dumb that you can't pour water out of a boot, even if the instructions were written on the heel, okay? Or you're just pure evil. And I think that both of these things can be true at once. I think he's dumb and I think he's evil. I really do. Anybody who comes out and says that you can't arrest your way out of this, you can't prosecute your way out of this. Come on, we've been doing that for years since the beginning of time, and that has prevented crime. All right, do want to talk about what kind of led up to this because there was a carjacking spree, and then there was a panel where citizens expressed their grievances with the local officials for not combating crime. So on Monday evening, a 28-year-old suspect began a fatal carjacking spree in the business district of DC, where he shot Mike Gill. Mike Gill is a father of three, and he's married. So he was shot. Gill remained in critical condition and had been reportedly sitting in his vehicle waiting to collect his wife when Artel Cunningham, that's the suspect here, attacked him. So he was sitting in the vehicle waiting to get his wife, and this guy just attacked him about an hour after critically injuring Gill. The suspect unsuccessfully attempted to carjack another individual on the other side of the on the other side of tow. So of town. Um, and a few minutes later, he targeted another victim. So this guy is on a spree. He's trying to carjack people. He was unsuccessful. He went on the other side of town to carjack somebody. And then a few minutes later, he targeted another victim. So we're up to three victims at this point, taking his 2016 Chrysler and shooting him dead. The victim was 35-year-old father of two Alberto Vasquez Jr. Okay. And we're morally obligated to prosecute these sorts of people. Okay. He went to 3 different people. He critically wounded, critically injured Gil. And then he went to another victim and he was unsuccessful in carjacking this guy. And then he targeted a different victim, 3 people, and he killed this guy. We have a moral obligation to prosecute these sorts of people to the fullest extent of the law, which in this specific case, I mean, I deserved the death penalty. This guy shot somebody, just in cold blood in the face, like, and killed him. Shot him dead. He shot another guy. Then he tried to rob another. This guy is a terrible human being. There's no, the suspect in the fatal carjackings was shot and killed early Tuesday morning by officers, um, after he continued a string of crimes, which included at least 2 more carjackings and a shooting at a number of police, uh, and shooting at a number of police cruisers. So he got the death penalty, right? He was on some sort of spree. So even after he killed this Alberto Vasquez Jr. guy, he went out and he did more carjackings and then he shot at police cruisers. Like, come on. Justice was hardly served in this regard, but I guess it's better than what the district attorney had in mind when it comes to crime. Because I bet if this guy would have lived, if this carjacker would have lived, he would have been out. He would have been given a glass of milk, a blanket, and told it's going to be okay, given a hug. It appears lunatics are running the asylum in DC. That is the only way a once civilized society can get this bad. Okay, so I'm glad. I'm glad this guy was killed. That on Tuesday morning. Um, because on Monday evening this guy was just on a spree, and then they finally got him on Tuesday morning, and they killed this guy. Because if he hadn't been killed, I guarantee you he'd be out and he'd be doing it again. Because the Attorney General, AG Brian Schwalb, he said it himself that he does not think that we should arrest or prosecute people. We cannot prosecute and arrest our way out of it. So I bet that he would not have prosecuted this guy to the fullest extent of the law, even though he killed people, shot people, carjacked people, shot at police cruisers, and he did this for an entire night and the entire morning of Tuesday morning. So Monday night and into Tuesday morning. So I do want to shift gears. I'm going to lighten things up a little bit. It's Friday. It's Friday. The world is crazy, but there are good things happening in the world, and I like to bring those stories to you on Friday. There is this story coming out of Greenville, South Carolina. Love Greenville. I was there just recently for Christmas. Went around, had a cup of coffee. It was great. I love that. I love that city. I'm not much of a city person. Love Greenville. This woman's name, her name is Melanie Harper, and she is of Greenville, South Carolina. And she was heartbroken when she accidentally lost her diamond wedding band at a local recycling center. Oh no. When she realized the ring was missing, Melanie reached out to the city of Greenville Public Works and asked if the ring had appeared during the recycling process. The ring hadn't appeared. A crew member suggested dumping the bin of recycled goods on the ground so the team could search for the ring. Took a few hours, but the plan worked. One of the crew members, Travis, found the missing wedding band. Melanie was thrilled to hear the news and rushed to the Public Works facility to recover her precious ring. The city of Greenville celebrated Travis as one of the other crew members, as well as one of the other crew members who helped out when trying to find this ring. But she lost it at a local recycling center, and they celebrated the crew members for their special commitment to the community and their efforts to save the day for Melanie. Isn't that such a sweet story? Yes, that is a great story. And folks, we have to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to chat a little bit about James O'Keefe. James O'Keefe, he exposes this White House staff official. He's he's like a top official for cybersecurity. His name is Charlie Krager, and James O'Keefe was on like a little date with him. And the date, or in the date, this guy, Charlie Krager, just blabs to James O'Keefe about how the White House staff thinks very little of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. So we're going to talk about that undercover footage next on the Morning Buzz. Hey, good morning. This is the Morning Up Buzz, Cities 92.9. You can always text me at 309-451-9299. Surprise your Valentine with a prize pack. Love is in the air, and Cities 92.9, we want to be your Cupid. Win this Valentine's Day with Cities 92.9. You get a room from Bloomington Normal Marriott, along with dinner at Jesse's Grill, a couple of dozen roses from Forget Me Not Flowers, and then there's this beautiful, stunning pendant from Bremer Jewelry. Just text the word love to 77,000 for your chance to win. Find the details on cities929.com. Coming up, we'll talk about the undercover footage from James O'Keefe, where he exposes this White House staffer. He's like a top official, by the way. He's the top official, the top White House cybersecurity official. His name is Charlie Krager. And he exposes how little the White House staff actually think of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. They don't like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, the White House staff. So we're going to chat about it here coming up in just a little bit. But my favorite guest is here, and it's Chris Balkema. Chris Balkema, he's running in the 53rd Senate District, and he's the current Republican Grundy County Board Chairman of the Grundy County Board. So good morning, Chris. How are you?
Good morning. Great to hear from you and great to see you.
Okay. Well, first things first, I got to tell you about this, and I wanted to get your reaction because you're going to be joining these people. And, this state representative, he's from Chicago, a Democrat. He brings this up. Now, he says he's not going forward with it, but he hasn't rescinded the bill. It's this speeding. You don't pull them over if they're speeding. You don't pull them over if they've got tinted windows, no license plate. Your thoughts here, and should he have rescinded the bill?
Just when you think the left can't get further to the left, we see things like this. Actually, 13 hours ago, the Illinois State Police posted a clip as an example of what would happen. Have you covered that by chance?
No, I
Okay,
haven't.
so it's on the Illinois State Police website. Yesterday, ISP officers stopped a semi on I-70 for improper lane usage and other minor traffic offenses. During the stop, officers found a girl of suspected being trafficked. Enforcement of minor traffic violations saves lives and empowers lives. That's the state police quote. So during the stop yesterday, that would not have been allowed under the new bill if this were to become law. The officers found not only other issues, but a girl that appeared to be being trafficked. So that's case in point. What would happen if we continue to allow these folks to impress upon our rights? We're going to see things like this that are no longer going to be able to be prosecuted. And this girl apparently was in the semi, suspected of being trafficked, and they, because of the current laws, which appear to be logical, where you can actually pull over a vehicle if it's having an offense, would no longer be allowed under the new bill.
Yeah, and I don't understand this whole idea surrounding, racial disparities in traffic stops or whatever. That's what he tells, Capital Facts, the representative. He says, "Hey, we need to have a conversation about racial disparities in traffic stops." So, are you concerned with that, Chris Balkema? Is there a problem there?
Having individual conversations about how we can help people is wonderful. Introducing language into a bill, such as the one that was done there, to be able to force something that doesn't need to be forced in the first place is crazy. And so, if you are truly interested in helping those around us, and all of us, me from a biblical perspective, am very interested in helping people, I would do it one-on-one and with groups and in ways that are going to help people. I wouldn't write language introduce it into bills that hamstrings the very folks that are trying to keep us safe. And so the motive to me does not seem to be pure.
Mm. Well, Chris Balkema, fill me in. How are things going in Grundy County? I do want to inform listeners that there in Grundy County, y'all are a non-sanctuary county. That was how we kind of met. I reached out to Chris and I was like, "So you guys actually did this, non-sanctuary county. So how are things going with your new resolutions? You passed quite a few of them. Inform us about Grundy County and the steps you've taken to combat the migrant crisis.
Yep, it's going very well. I can sit here this morning and say that we don't have a migrant crisis in Grundy County, specifically because of the actions that have been taken. So we've got folks on high alert. I think, as I mentioned before, and it happened one more time since then, if we've even had legitimate buses stop to perform normal duties at a rest stop, and we had folks on high alert that immediately informed local law enforcement. It was checked out and determined to be fine. But it's so nice to see to be able to take a tough stand and to do the right thing, and then to see the vast majority of the county, in our case Grundy County, get behind it. I've had no less than 10 inquiries from other counties on the language and the process that we used. And so I'm grateful to be able to share, and to anybody else that would like to jump on board is great. But the biggest thing for me that warms my heart is that the community is behind this. And I would say that in any of the, let's just say 101 counties, excluding one perhaps, but I would say the vast majority of the residents would be behind a bill that makes sense, stopping human trafficking and creating a path to make it harder for folks to be brought in illegally, and then in some cases human trafficked, taken, done whatever with. The vast majority of a community is going to get behind that. And that's exactly what's happened in Grundy County. We as a nation cannot allow what we sometimes talk about that occurs around the world to continue to occur right here in our backyard. And if we, as long as the borders are open, and as long as folks are being allowed in, and then mayors of large cities that can't handle anymore do whatever they can do to get rid of the folks, anybody can pick them up, never hear from them again. We can't allow that in the United States. We will be judged for that. And I feel like the steps that we took in Grundy County are part of the solution, and other counties want to jump on board.
I was looking up something real quick, and I wanted to hit this with you before we got to break here. I don't know. Have you got time after this break?
Yes, I do.
A little bit of time? Okay. So we're going to hit this break, and then we're going to come back. I want to talk about this Pritzker announcing the $3.5 million in grants for local grocers. Now, I grew up in kind of Grundy County, Will County. I was in Wilmington and, Coal City. I'm familiar with the area. And this is interesting because this talks about local grocers, the mom and pop grocery stores, right? So, your local Burkotts or something like that. Rural grocery stores, they can apply for funding to put towards energy efficient equipment and these upgrades. It's going to come at a cost to the taxpayer of $3.5 million. And I wanted to ask you about it because you kind of get it, being from Grundy County, the local grocers. But I got to get your reaction to what this Republican said, Dale Fowler. I wanted to chat with you about it. So we're going to come back. I got to take a quick break there, Chris, but we're going to come right back. You're listening to Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. Okay, Chris. All right.
Okay.
We are just on the stream, folks. So if you're watching, smash the like button. We're going to come back. We're going to talk more about Pritzker announcing the $3.5 million. Real quick, I want to fill you in here, Chris. So here's the quote from Dale Fowler. He is a state senator currently, and he is a Republican from Harrisburg. He said rural grocery stores in his district have had a hard time competing with big box stores like Walmart. And I feel like you kind of get it because you're in Grundy County. There's some local grocery stores that are rural, right? Burkotts and things like that. Now, he says a lot of these little grocery stores, their equipments are in coolers. It's like 60 years old, and the energy bills are through the roof, and they can't afford a new cooler or freezer. So he says, we'll see how all this unfolds because this is just one, and this is just one grant, the 3.5 million. Obviously, they might roll out another one. Now, he says things like taxation and high energy costs are making it more difficult for rural grocers to buy the equipment on their own. And then, I press and I'm like, okay, well, 3.5 million. That's not just money coming out of the sky. That's going to be at the cost to the taxpayer. And he says, and I quote, it's going to be interesting to see who and how and why some grocers are awarded and what that vetting process is going to be. But the $3.5 million is not a lot of money statewide. It's not. Then he says, when you spread out $3.5 million throughout the entire state of Illinois, we'll see how impactful that is. So, your thoughts there? I just kind of filled you in a little bit. It's a $3.5 million grant program. You can apply. There's all kinds of things that popped up in my head questions like, okay, what is this going to do about competition? Or who's going to be eligible? Or if you barely miss the eligibility requirements, and this new grocery store down the block gets a new cooler. How is that fair? Because now I have to compete with this guy, but this guy didn't have the money before. You gave him the money. Now I've got to compete, and I had to pay for his new cooler. So your thoughts, real quick, Chris Bolkema. We've got about a minute. We're going to come back, and I'm going to grab your thoughts, but I'll lay it out a little bit more clearly for our radio listeners here. And I was just shocked. I was like, a Republican saying $3.5 million is not a lot. It sounds like a lot to me, but maybe he's right. So hold on just 1 second. We're popping back on for the radio folks, and then we'll grab a response from you.
Sounds great.
Woohoo! Hey, good morning. This is the Morning Buzz. Thanks so much for tuning in each and every morning. Chris Bolkman joining me. We're going to jump right into it. We were talking a little bit on the stream about this Pritzker awarding $3.5 million. It's part of the Illinois Grocery Initiative. It's where eligible local grocers can now apply for funding for energy efficient equipment upgrades at a cost of $3.5 million to us, the taxpayer. Dale Fowler, he says, quote, 3.5 is not a lot of money. Statewide, when you spread that $3.5 million throughout the state of Illinois, we'll have to see how impactful this is. Now, the local grocery stores, they're wanting this grant money because of, they got the 60-year-old freezer that they can't replace. Thoughts here. I want to see how you react to this legislation, this Illinois Grocery Initiative, Chris Bolkema, because you kind of deal with rural grocers. I mean, I know the Grundy County area, kind of Morris, Coal City. There's some local grocers. Burcott's comes to mind. Tell me your thoughts here.
Yeah, we want local businesses to survive and thrive. And so anything we can do to help local businesses, I'm going to be all for. Now, let me caveat that by saying, anytime I see the words spread and it's not a lot of money, reminds me kind of like the ARP money coming down a few years ago we were just writing checks like crazy. So anytime I see the words come through and perhaps language is massaged to say, to the average taxpayer, it's just a little bit. I hear the thing all the time on, if we do this at Grundy County, it's only going to cost the average taxpayer a cup of coffee per year in an increase. So, but the problem is, if you start looking at the world that way, and let's add this layer of help, and let's add this layer of help, suddenly the only real help that we've given is a socialistic platform in our economy. And so, yes, if a local grocery store is struggling to replace a freezer and there's an opportunity to assist them, how about we look at our tax structure in Illinois overall? How about we look at the minimum wage and what we're doing that really stifles the folks from being able to hire the number of people that perhaps in a community would go to work for a certain wage per hour that's competitive for that region. But we've dictated at a state level now that you have to pay this no matter what. And so we as the state, and I'm currently Grundy County Board Chairman, I'm running for the 53rd State Senate seat. If I can get down there, I would want to drive on the principles of let's remove barriers that are hurting small businesses. Let's not try and give them a warm blanket and a glass of milk and say it'll be okay by giving additional money on a large amount of wounds that we've already caused small business owners with our previous laws. And
Yeah.
so that's an analogy from what are the current or the previous story.
Yeah, a warm glass of milk and a kiss on the forehead. Let's just do that for the criminals. It's like arrest and prosecute. I don't know who your DA is down there, the Grundy County state's attorney, but we've got a pretty good one here, and that's the only thing I think that's saving us right now here in McLean County. Because we're going to have all kinds of migrants, we're going to have all kinds of criminals. We have a homelessness problem. It's just piling up because we've got Bloomington and Normal, and they're just progressive as all hell. And and people know that you go down to downtown Bloomington, you see the homeless encampments. It's miserable. But the only thing that I think is saving us is that McLean County, at the government level, we've got some Republican representation, some people with their heads screwed on tight, and we've got a pretty strong DA. So tell me about the DA and your, while we're on the topic, arresting and prosecuting. We got a couple of minutes and then we're going to take a break, but I want to give you time to talk about your Senate race too and what you've been hearing on the ground in the 53rd. So arrest and prosecute, are those good answers to homeless problem, to crime, rampant crime?
First off, our state's attorney, Russ Baker, does an excellent job. He's fantastic. He actually came from Cook County and has done a very good job there, and now doing a very good job in Grundy County. And so the words arrest and prosecute are, I'd say, normal, needed, and an essential fabric of our country. And so we've got laws in place for reasons, and we've got all the way to the death penalty. And if we begin trying to strike those levels down and replace with warm blankets and pats on the head, we will have the absolute anarchy, and the people that most want that to happen are some other leaders around the world that are watching the United States. And if we continue to weaken ourselves by taking those approaches, they love it because we become much more vulnerable economically and from a military perspective. And so arrest and prosecute are essential words. They're essential fabric of our community, and Grundy County residents are as safe as they can be with our number one, our sheriff, Ken Briley, and secondly, Russ Baker, our state's attorney. They're doing a fantastic job.
Tell us, before we go, Chris Balkema, where we can find out more about you and your state Senate run.
ChrisBalkema.com. And I've got Facebook, Balkema for State Senate. It's a huge district, as people know out there, all the way from the Indiana line to East Peoria on the east-west, up to where I live in the Shanahan area, down to where just north of UCAT in the Normal area. So it's a big district. It was gerrymandered that way to protect other districts. It's wonderful because it fits my DNA very well. A great group of people, and very excited to get past March 19th, past the general in November 4th, and get down to Springfield and start helping reverse some of this stuff. There is, out of the 12.5 million people in Illinois, the super majority down there right now is really representing the super minority. And so we're happy to flip that around like we did in Grundy County at Springfield as well.
He did it in Grundy. He'll do it in Springfield. You have a great rest of your day, Chris Balkema. Folks, we are going to be back here at the top of the hour, about 8:06. You're listening to The Morning Buzz on Cities 92.9. Good morning. Hi, this is the Morning Buzz. Thanks so much for tuning in each and every morning. We're going to be back talking a little bit about James O'Keefe and this little date that he had with a White House staffer. It's hilarious. He exposes that the White House staff there in Washington, they don't like Joe Biden. They don't like Kamala Harris, which is funny. We're back next. Morning. This is the Morning Buzz. I so do appreciate you tuning in on a Friday. It's Friday, folks, and I'm so pumped for the weekend. We've got some deals for you to steal on our website. Yes, that's cities99.com. We've got frequency martial arts. Invest in your physical and mental health. Right now, Frequency Martial Arts, they're offering discounted membership opportunities that will help you get in shape while building confidence and making friends. Supply your child with the tools to help them succeed as they learn how to deal with adversity, and they can learn to work well with others and improve on and off of the mats. It's frequency martial arts. You're going to be getting physical activity, and it's a great way to take a break from the gadgets, okay, for the kiddos. So find your deal that you can steal on cities99.com. It's frequency martial arts. Invest in your physical and mental health. Good morning. Before we took the break, I was telling y'all a little bit about undercover footage exposing how little the White House staff actually thinks of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris, she's hemorrhaging black staff. Nobody wants to work for this lady. We're going to get to that, plus a squad member attacking Walgreens, calling Walgreens racist because Walgreens is closing up some stores because they're sick and tired of people robbing them. So they're closing up stores in certain areas that crime is just rampant in, and they just can't deal with it anymore, and they're closing stores. And this squad member is calling Walgreens racist. Okay. This blue state is calling for a ban of hostile architecture. And you're thinking to yourself, Kat, what the hell is hostile architecture? Well, this is architecture that prevents homeless encampments. Okay. They claim, this is hostile architecture. And they say, hey, a park bench with some armrests in the middle of the park bench to prevent somebody from lying down on the park bench. That's hostile architecture, and we want to ban it. That's what this blue state is calling for. So we're going to get to all of this and more ahead on the Morning Buzz. It's always live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Rumble. Subscribe to the YouTube channel today. That's Cat Peterson 99. Now, it never ceases to amaze me how much Washington, D.C. staffers don't know. Like, how do they not know that there's ears and eyes everywhere? Okay, D.C. is crawling with journalists, and that's the city with eyes and ears everywhere. Yet these Washington, D.C. staffers, they still insist on bad mouthing their powerful employers in social settings. I just don't understand how you keep doing this. You just keep doing it. These Washington D.C. staffers are bad mouthing their bosses, powerful employees in these social settings. So this dingus, he's a top White House cybersecurity official, and his name is Charlie Krager. Charlie uh, went on a date with James O'Keefe. And we all know who James O'Keefe is. He exposes people. So you know how the polls show that Americans think very little of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris? Like, Americans don't like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, according to every single poll ever. It appears that the White House, they don't like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris either. Like, we all mutually don't like Joe Biden, nor do we like Kamala Harris. At least according to Charlie Krager, he's trying to impress his date here, by the way. More on the date in just a little bit, but he's trying to impress his date, and he's claiming that a lot of the White House staffers don't like Joe Biden and they don't like Kamala Harris. So the people who work for Biden, much like most of us with functioning eyes, they have noticed that the president he is in obvious mental decline. He's not clinically diagnosed with dementia, but they all notice his obvious mental decline, okay? The people who work for Biden. And this is all according to Charlie Krager. He says that people know at the White House that Joe Biden is declining mentally. But this is what Charlie says: no one in modern history has ever said we're not going to renominate a president for a second term. So we can't, even though we all acknowledge that Joe Biden has obvious mental health issues, we can't not renominate him. Okay. We know that he's not doing well mentally, but we're going to nominate him anyway because it's never happened in modern history where we don't renominate a president for a second term. They also hate Kamala Harris, the Washington, D.C. staffers, though a certain group of people more than others hate her. The black staff, black Washington, D.C. staffers, she hemorrhages black staff. She can't keep black staff, and they quit on her in mass. This is a quote from Charlie Krager. Like I said, he's a top White House official, cybersecurity. Michelle Obama. You've been asking me the question: is Michelle Obama going to be a potential replacement? Not according to an alleged meeting that Charlie Krager talks about, where the former first lady, she says that she would not want to be president because she doesn't want to. She saw everything that her husband went through, and none of it interests her. So here's what the meeting sounded like between James O'Keefe and this Charlie Krager fellow. They're on a date, and James O'Keefe, he kind of like Clark Kent's it. He's got a disguise. If you say blonde hair and glasses, adding glasses to your face is a disguise. But here's this guy being exposed, exposed. And let's take a listen. Here we go.
I work at the White House. So you're pretty high up in the government. Yeah, I'm fairly high up. I'm good at keeping secrets, and so I manage 2 federal agencies, the State Department and USAID. So when you say it's like security, like you're protecting the networks of the federal agencies that you give all your information to. The mission is to protect information. And we are like the president's voice when we go into meetings in terms of discussing and promoting the president's priorities. Is he going to be the nominee? Yes. And she will be the vice president nominee. Yeah, I don't. There was a debate about removing her from the ticket, but sadly they didn't. She can't keep black staff. They quit on her in mass. But with him, I know. He's got dementia. Well, he's definitely slowing down. Well, they know that he has those issues. I think so. But they're not willing to say it. Shows it. And they're not willing to say it publicly. And same thing with Kamala Harris. She's not popular, but you can't remove the first black lady to be vice president from the goddamn presidential ticket. Like, what kind of message are you going to send to, like, all the African American voters? How would you spin that? People be like,
how would you spin that? How would you spin that if you remove Kamala Harris from the ticket? I just can't. My favorite part about all of this is, what makes this the best video of all time is the fact that Krager's date here, Charlie Krager, the White House official, he's blabbing to James O'Keefe in disguise, depending on if you count blonde hair and glasses as disguise. He's literally Clark Kent. And this cybersecurity expert is blabbing to a date, which is bad enough, by the way. But you're blabbing to a date that you don't even know who he is, and your date is James O'Keefe. Your job is to secure the internet. Know who you're on a date with, what guy you're on a date with. You're on a date with a guy who invented the genre of getting people to expose their employers while on dates and share that footage on the internet. Like, you're on a date with James O'Keefe. James O'Keefe didn't even send one of his associates. He Clark Kented it. And this guy is in charge of cybersecurity. The guy in charge of cybersecurity let it slip that nobody wants Kamala Harris. Everybody hates Kamala, especially black staff. They don't like her. She can't keep black staff. She hemorrhages black staff. And everybody thinks that Joe Biden is losing his marbles, but guess what? We can't do anything because Kamala Harris, she's the first multicultural woman. And what kind of message would that send to African American voters? Even though the African American staff members hate her, what kind of message would we be sending if we removed her from the ticket? If we removed Joe Biden from the ticket, because of his mental health decline. What well, we can't do that because that's never been done in modern history, where the Democrats don't renominate the president for a second term. It's never been done. So we can't do that even though we know he has obvious mental health decline. Even though Kamala Harris is so unlikable, we gotta keep him on the ticket. If you live in the area, folks, you live in the DC area and cybersecurity is your passion, it would appear there's a job opening in the White House because there's no way this guy keeps his job after exposing his employers like that while on a date with James O'Keefe. James O'Keefe in a Clark Kent disguise. It's just hilarious. Right. I do have to shift gears. You're listening to the Morning Buzz. We're going to get to some of your comments. Luke says, correction, Michael. I love it. Yeah, Michael Obama. Yeah, there's no way that lady is a lady. And then Ryan Mack, he says, I'm not sure how he didn't know James, one of media's most hated dudes, only wearing like Clark Kent glasses. The moment he takes off the glasses, I'm just like, it's just so funny. It's so funny. This guy is supposed to be, and this is just a perfect video because it just shows you how incompetent everybody is running that joint. The guy did scrub his social media after this video was released. I'm excited because I think it's supposed to drop today, the reaction. So they do an entire video, James O'Keefe with this guy, and they don't get the reaction once James O'Keefe comes out as James O'Keefe. They cut the video, and he says, "Tune in tomorrow, and you'll get to see the reaction of the White House staffer." And knowing how incompetent this guy is, he's going to react very, very poorly and make himself look like an idiot. So I'm very excited for that video to drop today. Uh, I'm gonna take a break, and then when we come back, we'll get to Ayanna Pressley. She's a squad member, and she's the very bald, very shiny head one. And she's saying that Walgreens is racist because they're leaving these crime-ridden neighborhoods. Okay, and yes, I'm just going to say it's safe to assume that it has nothing to do with the Democrat or the demographics of this area, okay, and it has everything to do with the unprecedented levels of crime. That's why Walgreens is closing up stores in certain areas. It's not because they're racist, but of course, she can't let facts get in the way of her demands for attention that she so desperately wants. This is a squad member. We're going to get to it here on the Buzz. You're listening to Cities 92.9. Good morning. Hey, so much for tuning in each and every morning. We are going to be back talking a little bit about the squad member who goes after Walgreens and says that Walgreens is racist because they are moving out of crime-ridden neighborhoods, and she says it's racist. So we're going to chat a little bit about that, plus a high school in Connecticut. Connecticut. Some of these boys they did this courageous act. It was a courageous act of civil disobedience, and they took down a tampon dispenser. So it was a new state law where it said that, hey, you have to have tampon dispensers, free tampon dispensers in women's bathrooms, all gender bathrooms, and at least one men's bathroom. So this high school boys, you don't need a high school diploma to know that this stuff is asinine. This whole men can be women, women can be men thing. And these boys, they did this courageous act of civil disobedience, and they actually ripped down this tampon dispenser, which is incredible. So we're gonna be chatting about all of that here on the buzz. Very excited. Smash that like button and share this out with you. A squad member, Presley, Representative Presley. Now she's the very bald, very shiny head one, and she says that Walgreens is racist because Walgreens they've been leaving crime-ridden neighborhoods, and they're just sick of being robbed, so they're leaving. And yes, I think it's safe to assume that this had nothing to do with the demographics of the area and nearly everything to do with the unprecedented levels of crime and theft that have been going on in these areas. But of course, she could not let facts get in the way of her demands for attention. And she demands attention. She desperately craves attention. And that's why she said Walgreens is racist. She just wants because it makes no sense. Um, Obviously, Walgreens is doing this because they're sick and tired of getting robbed in these crime-ridden areas, these progressive cities, predominantly. So let's take a listen to what she said here. Here is Representative Ayanna Presley. Here we go.
Without objection, the gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, Walgreens is planning to close yet another pharmacy in the Massachusetts 7th, this time on Warren Street in Roxbury, a community that is 85% Black and Latino. This closure is a part of a larger trend of abandoning low-income communities like the previous closures in Mattapan and Hyde Park, both in the Massachusetts 7th. When a Walgreens leaves a neighborhood, they disrupt the entire community and they take with them baby formula, diapers, asthma inhalers, life-saving medications, and of course, jobs. These closures are not arbitrary and they are not innocent. They are life-threatening acts of racial and economic discrimination. That is why I joined with Senator Markey and Warren to demand answers from Walgreens CEO. Why was there no community input, no adequate notice to customers, and no transition resources to prevent gaps in healthcare? Shame on you, Walgreens. Having a website with talking points about health equity and underserved communities is not enough. Walgreens is a multi-billion-dollar corporation that needs to put their money where their mouth is and stop
Gentlewoman's time has
divesting from
expired.
Black and brown communities.
Divesting from Black and brown communities. Okay, so this Representative Presley, she has publicly accused the pharmacy giant Walgreens of racial discrimination following its decisions to close doors in neighborhoods grappling with high rates of theft. Presley's statement criticized the company's actions, suggesting that the closures disproportionately affect communities of color. Walgreens, a major player in the pharmacy industry, recently announced the closure of several stores due to what the company is describing as rampant theft. This decision, according to Presley, targets areas with significant minority populations, leading to her accusation of racial bias. So here's the thing: Walgreens is not targeting anyone or any community. It's the other way around. Walgreens is the one being targeted. The company has no obligation to anyone or anybody to keep this store open. Okay. Especially when elected officials show an extreme lack of respect of their business. Okay. Because you've implemented all of these progressive policies that essentially make crime legal. In her statement, Presley highlighted the impact of such closures on communities, emphasizing the reduced access to essential services, including medications and healthcare products. She called Walgreens to reconsider its decision and to address the issue of theft in a manner that does not disadvantage communities of color. Nice. The lack of self awareness here is infuriating. Walgreens was doing well enough before progressives all across the country decided to make crime legal with their policies, their progressive policies, like the Safety Act here in the state of Illinois, like this recent bill, which isn't going to be voted during this session, but he hasn't rescinded the bill, folks, that makes it to where cops can't pull over people who are speeding. Uh, like all of that is going on across the country in these progressive cities. Subsequently, too many people are taking advantage of the five-finger discount. I call it the five-finger discount. That's the discount where you get to grab and go. You grab and go. Quite frankly, the fact that elected officials lack so much common sense that they cannot make the connection that their policies fuel the environment of rampant theft, it's insulting to anybody who has a brain, okay? How in the world are you not making this connection here? The reason why crime is up is because your progressive policies. It's not Walmart's job to create essential services or access to essential services, okay? Having a Walgreens in your neighborhood is a privilege. It's not a right. The thing about rights versus privileges is privileges can be taken away. And this is what happens when you abuse your privileges. They get taken away. This is just common sense. And if Presley opened up a dictionary and she looked up the word racism, you would not find the word Walgreens or drugstore or pharmacy in that description. Okay. So the moral of the story, I think Presley, she needs to get online. She needs to order herself a dictionary from Amazon. She needs to look up the word racism. But she's going to have to get it from Amazon because clearly she can't get one at Walgreens anymore anyway. Presley has no one to blame but herself. She has everything. She has no one to blame but her asinine policies and her ideology that fuels crime-ridden communities. It's her fault. She has these wildly held beliefs that if you just give criminals a kiss on the forehead and a glass of milk, everything's going to be fine. That's an insane ideology. You're insane. All right, I do have to take a quick break. Before we go, I do want to give you a nice news story and a nice news story. I like to pull these out for Friday, lighten things up a little bit because I get a little fired up, especially with squad members. But this is a nice story. Miranda. Miranda, she's of Kentucky. She's only 15 years old. And starting way back in 2016, she started collecting blankets to give to people in need. Her project has grown throughout the years, and she collects donations from January through the end of February. That's what she's been doing since 2016. And then she delivers the blankets to local women's shelters, a baby pantry, and hospital. Okay, so it's a local women's shelter, and it's for women. And she hopes to collect 100 this year. So she's working. She collects them through the end of February. Miranda, who celebrated her birthday on January 21st, is giving back to others. And she said, giving back to others was the best gift she could ask for. She just wants to give. Isn't that so sweet? And she's only like 15. Well, yeah, she's 15. That's it. Even with her birthday. So she's only 15 years old, and she plans to keep this project going for years to come. So, quote, she says, I hope to pass it along to my children when I am older, well, and hopefully start a business. I'm really not like I'm getting the money, but to where I can use the money and also give it to women's shelter and this hospital that she's partnered with. So she would like to start collecting donations and start a business, a nonprofit, and start giving that money to the shelter. So she's only 15. And that's so sweet. The teenager collecting blankets for babies. Aw. All right, I do have to take a quick break. We're going to come back. I do want to talk about this high school in Connecticut. These boys, they tore down a tampon dispenser in the guy's restroom because Connecticut, there was this new state law where they were requiring people to, or requiring high schools to put tampon dispensers in the boys' restroom. Yes. We all know how incredibly asinine that is, and I don't think you need a high school diploma. These guys didn't need a high school diploma to know how stupid that is. So within minutes, a group of guys, they came into the bathroom and they tore this thing down within like 20 minutes of it being installed. I'm back next. This is the Morning Buzz. Kat Peterson. So lots of monkeys in the technology today. Working through those details here. I bumped something. I think I bumped something here, and I'm working on it. I'm working on it. So this is the morning buzz. We're back into the swing of things. We're gonna get that fixed for you for Glenn Beck coming up at 9 o'clock. But before we get to Glenn Beck, I got a couple of more stories I got to share. Specifically, this one out of Connecticut. It's a high school. Okay, and it's a woke high school that put tampons in the guy's bathroom. And this group of dudes, they said, you know what? No, we're gonna destroy this dispenser, this tampon dispenser that you just put into our restroom. So we're gonna get to that story. Plus, there's something really dumb that a crime-ridden progressive city official said. He said, we can't prosecute our way out of this. We can't arrest our way out of this rampant crime that's going on in Washington, D.C. So I'm going to talk about the crime-ridden progressive official, the city official, here on the Morning Buzz. Now, there's only one logical thing to do when you find a tampon dispenser in a men's bathroom. And some guys at a local high school in Connecticut knew exactly what that logical thing was. There's only one thing that you can do, and it's to tear it down. Okay. And a new state law, they required menstrual products in at least one men's bathroom in a high school. And they wanted you to have menstrual products available in women's bathrooms, in all gender bathrooms, and then at least one men's bathroom. But you don't need a high school diploma to know how incredibly stupid that is. So within minutes, we had a group of guys go into that bathroom and they did what needed to be done. According to the New York Post, a state mandated tampon dispenser inside the boys' bathroom at a Connecticut high school was ripped down 20 minutes after it was installed this month, according to the building's disgusted principal. He's just so upset that the kids did this, that they tore it down. The dispenser was placed in the Brookfield High School boys' bathroom at 9:30 a.m. last Wednesday, and it was down by 9:52 a.m. So about 20 minutes. It was torn down from the wall, leaving tampons littering the floor. And the school principal said in an email to students and staff, quote, the fixture was put in the bathroom as part of a new state law that mandates each school must provide free menstrual products in women's bathrooms, all gender bathrooms, and at least one men's bathroom. So you need to have a tampon dispenser. I'm aware that the law, and this is what he says in the email. Okay. This is what the principal says. He goes, I'm aware that the law says men's bathroom, but actions today that led to vandalism and destruction of property were the work of immature boys, not men. Wow. You know what? All I have to say to these boys, to these men, really, because they are men, well done. Well done. Does anybody see a problem here? Because I don't. And I say they should have worked harder to pull that thing down. It should have only taken them 10 minutes. Why 20 minutes? Now look, you win stupid prizes if you play stupid games. And I'm using that quote directed towards the state officials and the local officials, not the guys who did what needed to be done. Okay, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Typically, I don't condone this kind of behavior or this act of vandalism, but whoever's responsible for this, they need to be awarded a medal for this courageous act of civil disobedience. Now, I got to tell you about what Alex Harris said. Alex Harris, he's this guy. He sits on the Ridgefield, Connecticut Pride Advisory Board, and he said, quote, schools are charged with imparting knowledge and understanding of reality to our youth. Menstruation and trans and non-binary people are simple facts of reality that threaten no one. For goodness sake, the reality is that these adults are delusional if they think that men can bleed and if they think that men can be women. You're a delusional adult, okay? And the reality is that men can't be women and women can't be men. And it's infuriating that these people have the nerve to say that these boys need to accept simple facts of reality. You can't make up. You honestly cannot make up this level of delusion. I mean, these adults are completely delusional if they think men can menstruate. It's not possible. It's not real. It's fantasy. And the crazy thing about this is that these high school boys have more sense than school administrators that I know have degrees out the wazoo and school educators that have degrees out the wazoo. And that said, it sometimes it does. It sometimes feels like we have no hope left in the world. But this courageous act of civil disobedience, I think that this is proof that there is a whole lot of hope coming out of this next generation, and I'm excited. And I say this, these types of people, the boys, when they grow older and have families of their own, they need to make as many kids as possible, and we need to repopulate with uh, reality-based people who live in reality, not these delusional idiots. And I'm excited. I have a lot of hope in this next generation. So, our nation's capital is suffering greatly. There is a major crime wave that has been going on in Washington, D.C., and it's very, very bad. So let's just look at the numbers. Compared to this time last year, homicides are up 37%, auto thefts are up 106%, robberies are up 66%, and carjackings are up 108%. This is insane. These percentages are crazy. Homicides are up 37%, auto thefts 106%. That's insane. So on top of all of that mess, just this week, we had a Trump official. It was an a former Trump administration official. He got shot during carjacking that killed the second victim. And the city saw 60 car break-ins just within the 72-hour time period. Okay, that's how bad things are getting over there in Washington, a 72-hour time period. So what does the nation's capital do? Well, you definitely can't prosecute the people for this. Of course you can't, right? You can't even arrest people for crimes. Oh no, that would be the last thing to solve this problem, according to the Attorney General of Washington, D.C. Let's take a listen to what this guy said. He says that we can't arrest our way out of this and we can't prosecute our way out of this. Let's take a listen. Here we go.
During the discussion, residents did not hold back, voicing their frustrations.
I blame the system.
Many questioning why kids aren't being held accountable.
We as a city and a community need to be much more focused on prevention and surrounding young people and their families with resources if we want to be safer in the long run. We cannot prosecute and arrest our way out of it.
During the discussion, residents did not hold back, voicing their
So
frustration.
there you have it. He said it. He said it, folks, during a recent panel. The Attorney General for Washington, D.C. told residents concerned about the skyrocketing crime rate that his department could not prosecute and arrest our way out of the problem. So Brian Schwalbe is his name, and he's specifically talking about the violent crime, including the enormous numbers of carjackings that's currently plaguing the nation's capital. Okay, this is what he was talking about. He said we can't arrest or prosecute our ways out of it. The AG's shocking statement came in wake of a violent crime spree by a carjacker on Monday evening, just this past Monday evening, that left one area resident, dead, and another, a former Trump administration official. He was in critical condition. And he says we cannot prosecute or arrest our way out of this. The thing is, you totally can arrest your way out of this and prosecute your way out of this because that's literally how people have prevented crime since the beginning of time. You can arrest your way out of this. You can prosecute your way out of this. According to progressives, the only solution is to give criminals this warm glass of milk, a kiss on the forehead, a blanket, and a hug. That's the best these people can come up with there in Washington, D.C., and it should be illegal for a DA to be this incompetent. You're so bad at your job. When you're this bad at your job, there's only 2 things, 2 options serve true. You're either dumb, you're so dumb that you couldn't pour water out of a boot even if the instructions were written on the heel. You couldn't even do that, or or you're pure evil. And actually, I think both things can be true at the same time. You're pure evil and you're so dumb. So, uh, like I said, it's just a tragic story that Monday evening of the 28-year-old suspect. Um, he began a fatal carjacking spree. He was on one until from Monday evening all the way through Tuesday morning. He wound up killing a guy. He shot Mike Gill, who was a married father of 3, and he was a former Trump official. And then he went around and he shot at police cars on Tuesday morning. We are morally obligated to prosecute these sorts of people to the fullest extent of the law. We are morally obligated to do so. And here's the thing: this guy, the suspect in the fatal carjackings, and he was shot and killed Tuesday morning by two police officers there. And yeah, he had a string of crimes, included at least two more carjackings and shooting at multiple police cruisers on Tuesday morning. And look, I'm glad that these two officers killed this guy, because here's the thing that would have happened. He would have been let out, and he would have been given a warm glass of milk and a blanket and a pat on the head. That's what would have happened, because the DA said that. The Attorney General said that. He said, we can't arrest our way or prosecute our way out of this. Lunatics are taking over. They're running the asylum in DC, and that's the only way I can really explain it, because this was once a civilized society, and this has gotten so bad. It's clear that the lunatics are running things. All right, I do have to take a break. You're listening to Cities 92.9 News and Living to Normal. Hey, good morning. This is the Morning Buzz. I so do appreciate you tuning in each and every morning. Today is Groundhog Day, Groundhog Day. And yeah, I guess we are going to have some spring, an early spring, because he did not see his shadow today. Groundhog Day, organizers at the Groundhog Day festivities in Pennsylvania today, they expected to, or they probably had a huge crowd this morning. I haven't looked at the numbers, but they get a big crowd every year since the 1993 release of the movie Groundhog Day. Great movie. Thousands of people, they braved the cold temperatures today this morning to watch Phil come out of his little burrow. And the verdict here is that he didn't see his shadow, which means we're going to have an early spring. So quick fun fact, where if you ever wondered where Groundhog Day actually came from, apparently it's a Christian holiday. So it's called Candlemas Day. Candlemas Day. So this on this day, clergy members they would give candles to people and help them through the remaining winter days. If that day, uh, Candlemas Day, if that day happened to be clear and sunny, it meant that winter would drag on. And if the weather was cloudy, spring was on its way. So when the Germans settled in Pennsylvania, the Candlemas Day folklore expanded to include finding a hedgehog to see how he reacted on this day in regards to the weather. So that's kind of a fun little fact about the Groundhog Day tradition, and where it came from. Real quick, before we go for today, you guys can text the word love to 77,000. You're going to get a room, possibly you'll win a room to Bloomington Normal Marriott. You'll get dinner at Jesse's Grill, a couple dozen roses, from Forget Me Not Flowers. You're going to get this stunning pendant from Britain Jewelry. We want to be your Cupid. Text the word love to 77,000. All right, that's going to do it for me today. You have a great weekend. It's supposed to be nice and warm, 50 degrees, sunny. Oh, I love the sun on today. Bye bye. Love you.